Dear friend, have you ever wondered why you can't focus on work? Why do you always delay and do everything in a lack of concentration? Lack of concentration is not only a matter of liking and inspiration, it also shows us how to control our minds and take control of them. Today, I will share with you a very interesting story about the story between the old man and the king. What secret of the old man made the king listen and decide to change his life forever? Watch the video until the end. You will know how to focus more on controlling your mind better. Let's start. In the 6th century BC, a great scholar was born in China. His name is Lao Tzu. He was a humble man. His deep knowledge was valuable. There were many things to be learned from his words. One day, when news of his wisdom was spread to the emperor's court, the king did not believe it was true. He did not accept anyone more talented than him. The king really wanted to meet Lao Tzu. After a few times the king was wrong, his queen went to invite Lao Tzu. The king went to meet him directly to find the answer for himself. When he arrived at Lao Tzu's house, he saw that it was a lonely house in a small garden. The king saw an old man in a military uniform growing vegetables in his garden. The emperor came to him and asked, "Are you Lao Tzu?" Lao Tzu replied, "Yes, it's me. What can I do for you?" The king replied, "I heard you were an extraordinary man of wisdom, but you seem to be very normal and nothing special. How can I know if you are really extraordinary?" After hearing this, Lao Tzu remained calm. He replied, "How can a normal person see something extraordinary?" The king was very surprised by this. After hearing this, the king said, "You look like a farmer, but you have the style of a gentleman. I am an emperor, but I have never had your calmness. I really want to achieve that, but my mind is always busy, and I always worry. Can you tell me how to have that calm mind?" Lao Tzu said, "Okay, I'll show you. But first, you have to do this. Come with me the next morning before the sun rises." Then, Lao Tzu remained silent and continued his work. The king returned home. That night, he could not sleep. He was curious about what Lao Tzu would tell him. The next morning, as Lao Tzu had said, he came to see Lao Tzu before the sun rose. He saw Lao Tzu watering the trees. Lao Tzu said, "Come here and help me water the rest of the trees. There is no help in this situation. Use this vase and water 30 of these trees. Start from here and water all the other rows. You have to water each tree. But remember, while watering all these trees, you have to absolutely be silent. Don't do anything else. Don't think about anything else. Just focus on watering the trees. If there is any thought that comes to mind, stop there and water it again from the beginning. After watering all these trees, come to me. I will invite you to drink tea, and I will tell you the next thing." After saying that, Lao Tzu went inside and stopped drinking tea. The king found this work strange. He thought he would finish this job in a few minutes, and he took the vase and started watering the trees. He watered the first tree, then the second tree. But just as he was about to water the second tree, he started thinking about the garden in his palace. There is always someone else doing that. I have never held a vase like that. But at that moment, he remembered that he had thought, and as agreed, if there is any thought that comes to mind, he has to water it again from the beginning. The king was very honest. He knew that honesty would help him learn the wisdom of Lao Tzu. And he held the vase and watered it again from the beginning. After after watering the first tree to the second tree, he was still able to concentrate. Then he went to the third tree. He started to think that he had overcome his previous thoughts. He was always determined to do it. He had thought of a few things, such as the work of ruling his kingdom. Once again, he thought, the king is a bit embarrassed. Now he will go back to the first tree and start watering it. This time, with more determination, he watered the fifth tree and the sixth tree. It looked more ruined than the previous trees. He thought of the wars that had been lost, the hills that were ruined, and the bloodshed that had been caused by the bloodshed. Now the enemy was still determined to invade his kingdom, and he was worried about the security of his kingdom. At that moment, he realized that he had started to think again. His mind was confused, and he had to water the tree again from the beginning. This time, he started to focus on the inside and fight his own thoughts. From the first tree, he was always aware of his thoughts. Once he was further away, the king was very upset. Now, every time he tried to water all the trees, he found himself lost in his thoughts. The sun had risen to the top, and the king was still watering the tree over and over again, but he could not water all of the trees. He began to feel tired. His sweat was dripping. He tried a little more, but in the end, he had to stop accepting his own failure. The sun had set, but the king could not water the last tree. He sat down, and he found himself standing outside the door. He saw all this, and he came to the king and said, "I am very happy for your loyalty. So now, I will share a secret with you. Listen carefully. When a mind is full of meaning, the true power of the mind will appear, and a normal task can bring you unlimited peace and wisdom." The king heard this and was very impressed. He said, "How can this happen? How can you achieve not thinking while doing anything?" "I cannot stop thinking, and I cannot stop thinking. The more I force myself to think, the more I think." The old man said to the king, "You cannot accomplish this simple task because you have not been able to concentrate on it. And you cannot concentrate because you have never been able to train your mind to be able to concentrate. Just like a child who has never been able to write, you have never been able to train your mind to be able to control it. So whenever your mind needs to concentrate on something, you lose your calmness, worry, and anxiety. You have failed in your thoughts." The king received a lesson, and he decided that from now on, he would learn how to be the master of his mind and not let it be his master, which made him worry and anxious. He began to train his concentration on his work, and he began to train not thinking to achieve the power of his mind. Through this story, if we look at our lives, we will see that if we want to develop in any area of life, we must have concentration on our mind, no matter what it is, be it in work or in the temple. Concentration is also very important to help us have the power of our mind. Without thinking, the mind will be reborn. Although the Buddha and the Buddha were not in the same time, they had the same view and idea. The Buddha and the Buddha both applied the non-thinking of the heaven to be the master of their mind, to learn how to control their mind, to make it strong and powerful. That is the key to open the wisdom inside. Through this story of the Buddha, we learn the non-thinking technique and only focus on the work we are doing. Through this technique, you not only focus more on your work, but also help you practice meditation so that your mind is not disturbed and makes you anxious and anxious. Anytime you can practice how to control your mind, not just by sitting in silence, but we can both work and meditate. To practice this technique, you just need to keep yourself from thinking and just focus on the present moment. Focus on the breath coming in and focus on what you are doing. By practicing this technique, your concentration in silence and non-thinking will help you reduce stress and fatigue. It will improve your health and at the same time, improve your wisdom. You can do anything without losing a lot of energy. And finally, one thing you should remember is that concentration in silence is the origin of all the wisdom of birth. All the solutions will not appear when you have millions of thoughts in your head. So whenever you have a problem that has not yet been solved, which makes you stuck, let your mind just focus on your current work, not think and worry about it. Everything in the universe will connect to you in that concentration, and you will definitely have a solution to solve your problem. Good luck. Thanks.